Happy Monday, and it is a happy Monday if you're in the crypto world. Welcome back to another episode of Go FUD Yourself. JD Gagnon here, and not Kiara, but we have Christine from
Tashi.
So they're a merch sponsor of ours often. Not today. I'm not wearing the Tashi merch today. I am wearing Liquid Collective's merch, though. So quick shout out to our friends at Liquid Collective for the merch sponsor of the day. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, Christine. I think it was a pretty action-packed / quasi-exciting weekend.
I was here last Monday, and last Monday was like Bitcoin. Now this is like stuff.
There's lots going on. So we're not going to talk about any particular coins or projects or anything that are going bananas. But I have to say, quick shameless plug, Benki is rocketing. So if you want to get on that ship, now's a good time to do that. But all of that to say, we're going to talk about the National Defense Bill and whether that included or didn't include certain crypto provisions that we were all hoping for. There's some speculation that it has become a clean slate now. We'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about Tether and the Tether printer machine going and pumping out digital dollars like crazy. We're going to talk about something that's pretty interesting to me. And I think, we've been supporters of Rug Radio since its very inception. I have a whole pile of the inception NFTs. And pretty excited about a merge with Decrypt. Kind of didn't really understand it at first, but we'll talk about that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about we're going to talk about Elon Musk and how he is best friends with the Dogecoin founder, or is he? We're going to talk about BTC ETFs. And lastly, we'll talk a little bit about Coinbase diving into derivatives. Sound fun?
Sounds like a lot, but it sounds fun. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. We'll get through it. Quick reminder, we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. This is our last full week of episodes before we take a winter season break until February.
Christmas holiday.
No, because it's longer than that. We're calling it a winter season break because it's December. I think our last episode is going to be on December 18th, next Monday, 1 week today. And then the one following that is on Groundhog Day, I think, in February, which is like the second or third.
Yeah, your best friend's gone. That's why.
Well, Kiara's gone, yeah. And it's just that time of year where we've got to spend some time in January kind of reconfiguring what we're going to do for the year. And away we go. Anyways, all right, let's freaking go. Whoops. Just kidding. Let's not freaking go.
Okay, let's go now.
Just kidding. Let's go now. One of these days, pretty much every guest that comes on this show, myself included, all vapes like a crazy addict during that video. Nobody wants to vape on camera, but all of the guests. And then as soon as the song's over, trying to get the vape out of the screen. It's pretty funny what you can see.
So you can't see.
It's really funny what you can see in this pod. Anyways, okay, so let's get going. We're going to start with a little bit of, it's being positioned as a setback for digital asset regulations. I kind of have two points of view on this that are conflicting, which is strange. I think it is, on one hand, a bit of a setback, but I also think that it's actually good for the space longer term. And I'll explain why in a minute, but we'll set it up. So essentially what happened is, there is the National Defense Authorization Act, which in the United States is an annual bill that essentially funds the Department of Defense for the next year. And that bill is always contentious at the end of the year because often they tack on a whole bunch of other, what we like to call pork, which is like special interests and all this other crap that goes on the bill that has nothing to do with national defense. That's pretty standard in American politics, that you have like these big omnibus bills, they're called, and you pack in other legislation and then if somebody doesn't want to approve, like if they don't like that little piece of something, they're kind of branded as somebody that's against national defense. Like it's all politicking. It's kind of ridiculous. But anyways, there was a lot of suspicion that, well, not suspicion, there was an expectation that the anti-money laundering kind of foundational principles that was being set out would be attached to that bill. And it was when it passed the Senate, but it was removed when it got to the, or sorry, when it passed the House. It was removed when it got to the Senate. So the point is, they're not ramming this through anymore because obviously someone in the Senate, probably Warren or someone else, said absolutely not signing this, and it would have been a stalemate. So that I suppose was part of the negotiation, was to remove that bill. Why do I think this matters? In a good sense or a bad sense? I think it sucks because we were all hoping to see some clarity in the US with respect to AML and just some of the basic consumer protection stuff. My concern with that is it would have been insanely problematic to incorporate some of these rules, but then not have the rest of crypto regulation kind of mapped out. Because how do you come into compliance with all of this stuff halfway, right? Like you're partially in compliance, partially not, maybe, I don't know. So I think I would prefer to see crypto as a proper bill that's properly debated and discussed, have multiple kind of angles to that bill. But that's kind of where I'm at. Christine, what are your thoughts on this? Like, do you follow US politics very much?
Yeah,
you live in the US.
Something that I absolutely hate about US politics is that they, exactly like you said, they ram this kind of stuff into things that don't relate at all. And you're not going to not pass a defense bill and be a stalemate on that for something like one policy that stands on its own. And it's terrible. They do it with everything here in the US. Yes, I am in the US, and they do it with everything. And it makes it really bad because it has nothing to do with anything except, like you said, being able to say the other guy doesn't stand for this. But at the end of the day, I think you're right. I think that even though this might have felt like a minor win and pushed us a little bit more towards that bull that's like, oh, crypto's on, like, keeps getting these little wins. I think it'll be way easier to pass like this if you can get these little sneaks in. But what we need is a full on, like, this is how you participate in crypto in the US.
Right.
And we need somebody who's strong enough to say that. And I think we're getting towards that point. There's a lot of people within the US government on both sides that are coming from both angles, that think that it does need to move forward for consumer safety for this reason, because we need some rules so that we know what we're doing, so that nobody's getting in trouble from the user and from, the builder's standpoint. And so I think that, of course, this matters. I don't think it's a setback, like you were saying. I think this just proves that we need to have a big stand in our own right. And I think we're going to get there. I mean, with everything coming up with the elections and everything this year here, I think we're moving towards that space. Yeah,
I'm with you. I mean, it's one of those things, like this should be transformative legislation that carries the future of finance in America. Yeah. In many ways. And we don't see it yet. It's not as obvious how blockchain will underpin, and crypto in some ways will underpin much of the financial infrastructure, in a decade or two from now. But this will be very consequential legislation. And I just hate to see it kind of shoved in as having said that, that's how many things,
that's how it gets through.
Many things get their start. So, we might get a more detailed debate and discussion around proposed bills if they're standalone, but it might take forever to get there until they actually move to vote on it. Like the House and Senate in the US are pretty inefficient. Like they only vote on these big omnibus bills, and then they spend the rest of the year fighting over it, and they just put off everything else. And so anyways, I don't want to beat this up too much. But the positive side of this is that it could be a bit of a clean slate, right? We've had a lot of these bills kind of be developed over the last year and a bit when they were still learning about Celsius, still learning about FTX, still learning about Three Arrows, Terra Luna, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these challenges that we've had over the last little bit. And I think it's almost better now that we're getting institutional focus. We're getting, BlackRock and Fidelity and all of these large financial institutions starting to participate in meaningful ways, maybe at the infrastructure layer, or PayPal with their stable coin. Like there's a lot of big things going on And I think, hopefully we can see a proper clean slate and review these things with eyes wide open now, instead of let's just stop crypto at all costs. No. Like, take a step back. Let's figure out how this actually works. A couple nuances before we move on, because I know this isn't the most exciting news to report on.
It's exciting though.
Well, it's
exciting because then it's an election year. So it's going to come up like crazy this year, and we have the opportunity to do that. So,
and I mean, as a space, we need to use the power of our voice. And, they often call for community feedback or opinions or questions and different things on these proposed legislations. Participate. If you think something is stupid, say so. If you think something is great, say so. If you think something is missing, say so. The only way that we're going to be able to participate in influencing this type of legislation is by, in fact, actually participating. Just sitting here complaining about it doesn't make any sense. A couple things that they did amend and put in there, or that were at least introduced, was a risk-focused review process for financial institutions. So they're kind of saying, okay, we're not going to make this blanket AML rule, but rather financial institutions, which often are the on-ramps into, like, existing regulated financial institutions, are the on-ramps into crypto. They made some legislation that just clarified risk-related reporting for those entities. And they also added for a comprehensive treasury report on mixers, tumblers, and privacy tools. I mean, again, we can't put legislation through if the government meaningfully doesn't understand what these things are, what they do, and if they really are adding as much risk as everybody seems to think they are to the system. So again, hopefully this is another opportunity to open this up a little bit, revisit these things. Any final thoughts on crypto regulation in the US, Christine, before we move on to a little bit more exciting stuff?
Nah, I'm just getting ready for this year to be over and for next year to roll.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely on the right path here to start this week. Anyways, it's been kind of a lot of fireworks. Quick word of caution: be prudent. Like, proper risk management. We've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. There's a lot of speculation in the market right now about an ETF approval, about reduced interest rates in Q1 or Q2 of next year, macro economy. Like, there's a lot of assumptions and there's a lot of speculation that's driving this crypto rally right now. And so my only concern is just be careful and make sure you have proper risk management, because heaven forbid, if we get any news that makes any one of those expectations no longer viable, you might see an omega dump. So just be careful. I mean, don't get FOMO. Don't be FUDed to death. Just make smart, risk-managed decisions.
Your acronym change up will be from like FOMO to DCA.
Yeah, that's it. You just DCA. DCA in, DCA out, properly diversify. That's kind of the. I know it's not sexy and it doesn't sound incredible, but if you figure out some of the most, or if you interview or read interviews of the most successful investors in history, that's their focus. Their focus is risk management, being in the game longer than anybody else, having capital at work in a risk managed way more often and longer than anybody else. Some people might have better years, but the best investors have better careers because they use proper risk management. So do that. And I'm not the best at risk management either. So this is half me counseling myself as it is suggesting to anybody else what they should be doing. Okay. This is kind of cool. Well, this is not necessarily kind of cool, but this goes to the point of what we've been saying for months, that although crypto until now, the last couple of years, has really been full of a lot of this nonsense, fringe, exploit, theft, all that crap. And I've been saying all along that, believe it or not, the blockchain makes it easier and much faster to get the information required to pursue these people relative to what it would with international financial institutions and SWIFT transfers and subpoenas in all these different countries. The blockchain, you can just see all of it on chain. And that's evidenced by how fast the FTX case was settled, because so much of it was readily available. They didn't have to subpoena and depose and do all this crazy stuff to try to get all this information from all these shells of companies. It's all on chain. And so we talked a little bit about, I think it was last week. Was it last week? When did that happen? So anyways, we talked about this Ronin bridge attack. I don't remember exactly when that was, but it was $625 million that was exploited on a bridge exploit, essentially. So what has happened here, and this doesn't happen that often, in particular with Tether. USDC does this often, or not often, but has done this multiple times. But Tether, of course, has frozen 41 wallets that are now considered sanctioned as they're a part of this exploit. The wallet's engaged in coin mixing via Tornado Cash. And so they're just saying it. Obviously, these people are trying to fence it out, and luckily they're able to figure out how to trace it and pin it to people. How do you feel about the forensic capabilities of blockchain, Christine? Do you think this is something that people are kind of sleeping on, how important it really is?
That this is the whole purpose of blockchain. I don't know how we keep missing this conversation. Like, DeFi is great, love it. This is why we're using it for this purpose, is because everything is there. The forensic capabilities is what makes blockchain so important and so effective and so useful, is so that we can do this. And it's not just, at a consumer level, but in governments, in companies, in whatever, everything is traceable and immutable. Like, this is the whole purpose. I don't understand why we're not focusing more on this technology aspect. And it really breaks my brain that people still don't understand. They see Bitcoin as blockchain. I think we had this conversation when blockchain is the important underlying factor here.
Like, I mean, Bitcoin is important too, of course, but
that's a different conversation. Like this, the whole point is it's fast and traceable, and anyways, I think that what they're doing is amazing. I think that this is important. I thought it was important with FTX. We say this all the time. This is why we build here. This is why we think this is why it's different, is for these capabilities.
Right. There's a lot of conflation between cryptocurrency and blockchain technology.
Yeah.
And often the news and the headlines are essentially packed with like currency related stuff, because that's people that run tokens or hold tokens are willing to pay for marketing to get people to think about those tokens. But very little is discussed at a meaningful scale about the underlying technologies and why they're important, and what is the 0 to 1 impact on society. Like, do we know what that is? And anyways, I don't want to beat up this point too much, because we have some good news about Tether also, but just wanted to acknowledge
good news about Tether.
It's a good thing. It's good news in the sense that they're still and continue to be willing to, do what's necessary to protect this, right? Like, because the other thing that people could say, and has been tried in the past a little bit, is that it's decentralized, which Tether is not. But I mean, there's nothing we can't freeze wallets. That goes again, but that's complete nonsense. That's never going to fly in a future where there's any amount of compliance. You're not just going to be able to say, well, we have no responsibility for this. But anyways, so I think this is good. It's good in the sense that we're seeing, continued efforts throughout the space, not just from stablecoins, but also centralized exchanges and many other venues that are able to freeze assets, freeze wallets, et cetera, to do that. So anyways, happy about that. Okay. So we talked a lot over the last little bit about inflation in the United States. This has nothing to do with inflation in the United States. But the printer press is going brr for Tether. And what does that mean? Well, they minted another 7 billion tokens in the last 3 months, which is like, well, what that implies is that $7 billion worth of dollars were collateralized to then mint USDT. And what that should tell people is that that's new cash coming into the space. $7 billion worth of new cash coming into the space, which takes Tether up to 90.6 billion. And it's one of the fastest and largest stablecoins, of course. So how do you feel about this? Do you think this is great? Do you think, this is a sign of what's to come, or what are you thinking about Tether?
I mean, all these things are happy bull, little moments, little wins. I mean, we call it a little win, but that is a massive amount of money. It is a sign. It's a signal that people are starting to move. It's a signal of trust. It's a signal of excitement.
And that's usually institutional capital. Like, it's rare. I would suspect it's pretty rare that an individual is sending USD
Yeah.
$20,000 like you might as well just on ramp it and buy it on an exchange. Like you can do that for next to no fees. But this is exciting to me. I think this is great. It's showing capital coming off the sidelines, in particular, institutional capital, enterprise capital.
That's why I said trust is
Yeah.
there's something building there. That's not like, oh, my neighbor bought in, you know?
Yeah. I mean, any one of these things, in my opinion, isn't like the standalone catalyst for the next bull, other than maybe the ETF approval. But the rest of this is just like kind of supplemental, support that's moving things forward and getting people excited. And that's good, from every perspective, in my opinion. Okay. Enough with Tether. Let's move on. Have you watched any Rug Radio or listened to any Rug Radio episodes recently?
Not recently. I have rugs. I have rugs from when there were rugs.
Yeah, tons. Yeah. They still exist. I'm not entirely sure exactly what they do. I know you can vote on some stuff, and
I've been collecting points for years. I know that
we should maybe have Farouk or someone from the team on the pod one day to talk about it. But anyways, Decrypt, which is a fairly large news outlet in the space. Large is relative. They're doing about 3 million annual revenue. Rug Radio is on track to do about the same this year, 3 million in annual revenue. They both kind of approach different areas of the market. Decrypt is mainly text-based. Rug Radio is mainly audio-video based. Rug Radio have put together a bunch of shows, like a bunch of specific podcast shows and hosts and so on. And they have a schedule all week that there's all these different shows with different topics, different presenters, different panelists. It's really cool. It's really a new form of multimedia supporting the blockchain space. And they're doing some really cool stuff with Rug Radio to decentralize things and to really turn it into a cool business. Decrypt, I think, benefits a lot from the Rug Radio creator economy that they've kind of created. A lot of influencers, a lot of, meaningful people participating in Rug Radio coming over to the Decrypt world. And from a Rug Radio perspective, they have no distribution for anything text. So this gives them the opportunity to tap into new users, cross-pollinate. And it's pretty exciting. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's great. One of my partners at Tashi and I are like completely different thinkers, to put this in some sort of weird perspective here. I am like I want to watch it. I want to listen to people in the background and whatever. And she wants to read about it. And I think that, knowing who these guys are and knowing that they have valuable information, I think that anytime where two creators can come together and present something to everybody, I mean, you're just capturing that much more of the general public, right? If you can appeal to both sides of that, you're way better off. And I think that this is going to be, personally, I think that it will be a pretty important little union they've got going on here. Like I said, they drove their way through this bear and have done great and are still creating. And they're both driven by what they feel is really important and what they're really passionate about. Yeah. And so it's projects like that move, right?
So we were talking, this is important to me for another reason. We were talking over the last few weeks in different podcasts and Twitter spaces and different things about how there's been a relative lack of distressed acquisitions, M&As, and roll-ups in this bear market. And of course, I've opined many times on why I think that is. Many of the failing underlying blockchain businesses were straight forks, a bunch of people that had no business acumen whatsoever. Those are the ones, not the only ones, but those are many of the ones that died and then disappeared during these markets. And so everybody thinks, oh, well, they used to have 500 million market cap. Cool. But they're not doing anything new and they don't have the capacity to build anything new. So why would we acquire non-existent IP that they don't own and a team that has probably already been let go because they have no money and isn't committed? Anyways, this is good. There are businesses in the space. There is a path towards M&A and acquisition. We see it a lot on the centralized side of things, like, Coinbase acquires Bison Trails, or et cetera, et cetera. Binance acquires this group, or XRP acquires a custodian in Europe. Like, we talk a lot about that, but those are quasi-centralized. This is really neat to see some roll-ups, where they say, hey, there's a value in your business that's complementary to mine, and there's a value in my business that's complementary to yours, and 1 and 1 is 3 in this case. So let's freaking go. And so it's exciting to see the model emerge. I think we'll see a lot more of it as regulation comes in and things are more standardized, and the general candidates to acquire these businesses will then have more trust in the information and data that they're receiving and know that there's accountability behind it. I think we're going to see a lot more of this in the next little while. There's a few fairly notable companies in the space that have really big war chests. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of this kind of heading in. There's a lot of companies still that are seeing a rebound, but are beyond distressed in terms of, their teams and their assets and their treasuries. So I think we'll see a little bit more of this, especially as the market seems to be turning around. Now people are saying, okay, I'm not going to buy a distressed asset and hold it for 2 years before it does anything. If I buy some distressed assets, or in this case, I don't think either Decrypt or Rug Radio were distressed. I think we'll see more of that, which is, my opinion, great for the space. Okay, I know you're a big fan of Elon. Maybe not as big of a fan as I am. I have an Elon, a big Elon like metal poster somewhere, but I don't know where it is.
How do you lose a big metal poster?
How did I get it?
How did you lose it?
I think it's probably just in the closet. I didn't put it on the wall. That's what happens. Anyways, so we kind of tongue-in-cheek joke about Dogecoin and how I think it's Musk's like just thumbing his nose to regulators. I mean, there's a lot of people that say that he's owned a bunch of Dogecoin and made a bunch of money, still holds a bunch. I personally am in the camp that believes he's never held Dogecoin. I think this is just a giant troll to show how willing regulators are to try to catch Elon Musk because he says things they don't like. And so anyways, Elizabeth Warren has been a very vocal critic of cryptocurrency and terror financing and drug trafficking. She's an absolute idiot and needs to stop talking and listen to what's going on. Elizabeth Warren, I struggle with her. I have for years. She lied about being Native American. What the hell is she doing as a senator?
How did she get kicked out?
And why is she so influential in the Biden White House? It's because she dropped out of the presidential race. And I think in exchange for that, Biden made big promises. Anyways, so this whole thing, this is kind of like a little bit of a false headline, in my opinion. Musk does not join the Dogecoin founder in any way, shape, or form. All he did was affirm a Twitter statement that the Dogecoin founder made. And he just said, yeah, this is true. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything about Dogecoin, about Elon, about anything. First, this is, to me, clickbait. It's a clickbait title. I wanted to bring this up because I love saying F you to Elizabeth Warren. So today, F you to Elizabeth Warren. But Musk is always in the news for this nonsense. And unfortunately, often people pay attention to it. There's going to be a certain proportion of people that read this that are going to go, holy crap, Musk joins the Dogecoin founder. I better ape Dogecoin. And that's problematic. I don't like to see that kind of stuff. So be careful. Do you own Dogecoin?
No, I don't. I am definitely not against it. I just currently don't own any. I need to add in, my favorite part of this whole article is that what he actually said is that she hates people. And he agreed with it. What a great statement that is. She hates people.
I think that was a truncated quote. I can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The point is, he alleged that she just hates people, that she only
cares about the wealthy and the bad.
Yeah, but it just is really funny to me that he would back up on this, and then you get these big sparks, like you said, that he joins the founder. But it doesn't matter. The point is, there's some brilliant people out there working on truly making things better for everybody, not just the underserved, not just the middle class, institutions, inclusive of everybody, whatever. We're all working on it. But that they can call out these people like Warren, and it cracks me up.
There's one more stat here that I think just needs to read. So Andre Gwizdalski is a researcher that has shown actually that crypto-based fraud is less than 1% of criminal financing globally, whereas fiat is 3.2 trillion with a T every year for illicit activities. So by this standard, we should cancel fiat and just allow crypto, which is ridiculous. Obviously, I'm not actually advocating for that, but that's like what this would imply. It's not that bad. And as we saw with the Tether freezing of those wallets and assets, that there is a concerted effort in the space to actually prevent most of this. So people that used to think it was appealing to use cryptocurrency for these activities, the same value proposition isn't there because there's no privacy or anonymity on blockchain in the way that people think, especially with incredible businesses being built around specifically this, like forensic assessment of blockchain activities. Chainalysis is an obvious example. There's many others emerging that have incredible teams behind them. To me, this is like the biggest nothing burger ever. And Elizabeth Warren needs to retire.
Yeah. I think
we'll just leave it on that.
Well, I would love it if they just like got rid of her. She didn't have the option to retire, but yeah.
For some reason, I can't remember. I think she's from New Hampshire. Her state is New Hampshire. I can't remember. But for whatever reason, she wins like handily in that state. Probably because she's prominent. She's on a lot of committees. She's on TV all the time. So they think, well, at least she might be an idiot, but at least she's got a voice that people seem to listen to. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Okay, prediction time. Since this is the last time you're on the pod, right? Or are you on next Monday?
I don't know. I think this is it.
Okay, well, you might be on next Monday, but just in case this is it. If you had to make a bet, and this is not financial advice, this is just pure speculation. If you had to make a bet, do you think the ETF is going to be approved in January?
Oh, yeah, I do.
The one that has.
Oh, my gut said no as soon as you said that, but I've never thought it wasn't going to until right now. What have you done?
It's the ARK Invest one that they can't punt anymore. Yeah. So they would have to outright decline it, which I think is very difficult given that they've continued to approve spot.
I would assume that it would. I would assume that it would. There's too much happening this coming year for them to not approve it. They need something to run with. So
okay. And then second part of that question, do you think it's going to be just that one, or are they going to have to approve multiple at once?
I don't think it'll be multiple at once, but I think that they will go bop, bop, bop after that. That like they're not going to wrap it all into oh man, I don't know. That's a good question also.
Yeah, we had our friend from Outsiders Law, Sebastian, on Friday, and we were talking all things ETFs. If you didn't see the episode, check it out. But his opinion, I think, is pretty interesting, especially on the grayscale one. So great.
I was just gonna say, I hadn't considered this until right now. Why I'm not sure, but as you say that, like I think that they might have to approve.
I think they're going to have to approve a few. I just think the only one that is, in my opinion, not likely to get approved at the same time is maybe the grayscale one, because it's in fact doing something completely different. It's turning a closed-end fund into an ETF, which is a totally different process with regulators than just starting new ones with clean slates. So I'm not sure what to expect there. But anyways, the speculation and the greed index is at absolute max right now. And that either says one of two things. A whole bunch of people are right, and it's going to be an incredible start to the year, or a whole bunch of people are wrong and going to be insanely devastated. Let's hope it's the former. But I think
how long? It's not going to just fall off and die. This is where I have a problem with like all this speculation and whatever. So we continue building, we continue growing. It's not like it's going to be like goodbye crypto, goodbye blockchain,
unless there was some like crazy like Western jurisdiction that just blocked it. There would be a lot of FUD around that. Remember the China FUD for the last decade? If we had US blocking crypto FUD and people actually believed it, oh my God, it would be catastrophic. All of that to say, I think there's a lot of people excited about what's happening. There's a lot of speculation, but it hinges on a lot of things. So it's not just any one thing. You could probably pin it down to the ETF approval. If the ETF is approved, even if some other stuff goes sideways, it'll probably still go bananas. But if the ETF is not approved, but these other things are, they might all die. So just be careful. Not die, but see some major setbacks. In particular,
it's only Monday. You don't have to be that funny.
I'm not being funny. I'm just trying to get people to be cautious because there's a lot of excitement. I guess what I'm actually trying to do is dampen the FOMO rather than
dampen the fun.
No. All fun all the time. Just FOMO. Okay. Well, now that we've got your opinion on that, and that makes it fact, I think we
Yeah.
can end the episode there. We're going to talk about Coinbase derivatives, but we'll talk about that maybe tomorrow when we have some more time. And we'll go from there. Any final thoughts, Christine? Where can they find out more about Tashi and more about you? How can they follow you?
No, I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is we have a really exciting partnership that we just announced today with Into the Block. So with this whole like pay attention, no FOMO, have no fun, we have some really great analytics out. So if you follow Into the Block, and it's just at Into the Block on Twitter, you'll be able to find our new partnership there. And it's really, really awesome. We like to inform and educate people, and for them to be able to do that themselves also. And that's a great way to do that. So
it really is an industry-leading risk analytics platform. Yeah. I've worked with Into the Block for 3 years now, and they are absolutely amazing. Some of the best and brightest minds in the space, honestly. They're kind of like this crazy company that does all this stuff that no one really knows about. It's unbelievable. But anyways, this risk dashboard is the only one of its kind that is user-facing, block by block risk assessments based on a million different variables. It's really cool. So I will affirm what you just said. Go check it out. Into the Block on Twitter. Check out the Tashi announcement. It's a big one. We're excited about it. You're excited about it. Into the Block's excited about it.
You're excited about it.
Our producers will put some links to Tashi's Telegram and Twitter and all that crap under the video. And give her a like and a follow. Quick reminder, we're a live show Monday to Friday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that shit. We don't commercialize this thing. So we need to find other ways to get the word out. So please help us share that. And with that, I say to you, Christine, today, go FUD yourself.
Thank you.
Bye.